Poison Storm is the best Pauper deck for 2025, Boros Synthesizer is on top of the food chain, and Mono Blue Fairies is the deck to beat. That is what we have learned from the last Pauper Format Panel update video released on the Good Morning Magic YouTube channel. Wait, what? Poison Storm and Boros Synthesizer are the most winning decks? How can these decks be the most successful despite them showing up nowhere? At least Mono Blue Fairies recently has picked up in play, so we can check if the 55% win rate in leagues can be replicated in challenges. Apparently, there are big discrepancies between what is said and what the wider Pauper community can observe, so we will have to take a closer look. You know what they say, with great power comes great responsibility. We have the privilege to have a conversation about the format and therefore the responsibility to keep the Pauper panel honest. This video will not discuss any bans, you will have to stay tuned for my next videos to see an in-depth data-driven approach of Pauper card banning and unbannings. Instead, we will look at what information the Pauper Format Panel has given us and how it is presented. We have to talk about the best decks in the format, Boros Synthesizer and Poison Storm. Their play rates are abysmally low, consulting tournament scraping sites, the MTG Top 8s, MTG Goldfishes and MTG decks of this world. Those decks are played 0.3 and 0.5% respectively. In the challenges, their play rates and win rates look very sad. For Poison Storm, it was actively sad. The sample size is low, which can mean anything. With other sites observing very low play rates, this leads to the belief that the sample size is so low that no meaningful statement can be made about the deck. If you look at data from challenges, we also can see that apparently Celestia Gates is at a 59% win rate, but we only have 39 matches on record, so this is meaningless for the greater picture. And if no other statement is given, we should consider Poison Storm only for memes, not for deck choice. Apparently, this is different for Boros Synthesizer, since the low sample size warning was not given. Despite that, Boros Synthesizer doesn't show up anywhere on deck collecting sites, so how can there be a good enough sample size to give an accurate estimate for how good the deck is? My working theory is that the Pauper Format Panel got leak data from the last 12 months, meaning those winning Boros lists that they mention are actually listed with All That Glitters in them going back to early 2024. Since the All That Glitters ban, we can observe a big reduction in play rate from Boros Synthesizer decks, so those can easily be outpaced by the huge number of Boros decks from before the All That Glitters ban. All in all, win rates of Poison Storm, Boros Synthesizer or Mono Blue Fairies cannot be observed or replicated in publicly available resources. This means those reports are more a distraction than an honest representation and evaluation of the format. Moving on, the video has shown a variety of cards representing different decks and giving the conclusion that the current meta is quite diverse. When showing cards for our diverse Pauper metagame, Thermocast, representing a land destruction archetype, shows up more than any other card. Yet in the last month, this archetype is completely absent as Gruul players adapted their deck to fit the new meta. The format has changed throughout the year, partly because the Pauper Format Panel did take action against All That Glitters. Highlighting new developments like Gruul Ramp ditching annoyed Altisor in favor of Colossal Dreadmask and the newest innovation of Bannerhide Cruciok can be more interesting than trying to get people to try Serpentine Curve or Deathblade Elite, decks that were already niche 2 years ago. Showing old decks, praising decks that don't get played, allegedly using old data, we want a Pauper Format Panel that is in touch with the current state of the format and not clinging to the past. And finally, let us talk about the most popular deck in the format and how we came to the conclusion that Mono Red Kodotha could possibly be fine for the format. First of all, let's talk about the only metric we received: win rate. Mono Red is the most played deck. We can easily assume a meta share over 20%. In challenges, the deck is played by 14% of players, and since the league environment suits Mono Red way better than challenges, the play rate should only go up. This means the difference between overall win rate and non-mirror win rate is getting noticeable. Here, non-mirror win rate refers to the win rate after excluding games where both players play the same deck, in this instance Mono Red versus Mono Red. In mirror games, the result is always a 50% win rate for the archetype. This will shift the overall win rate towards 50%. We care about non-mirror win rate more than overall win rate in this particular case, because we are discussing how different decks perform in relation to one another. Since we care about the relation, and we are judging the Pauper format on a macro archetype to macro archetype basis, mirror games hold no value. With an approximated 20% meta share, and therefore a mirror game percentage of also 20%, we can assume that the non-mirror win rate is at least 53%, and more if we assume a higher meta share. This increase in only 1 percentage point is not crazy, but we have to ask us the question, at what point is the win rate too high? Maybe 52% is still fine, but is 53% fine? What about 54%? Where do you draw the line? Mudding down the win rate by including mirror games for a widely played deck can obfuscate how strong this deck actually plays. Considering that Mono-Red Cardoso is the most played deck, it forces numerous sideboard slots dedicated to it. This comes up in the report as post-sideboard the deck performs worse than pre-sideboard. Still, knowing that you on average face at least one mono-red player per league, the 52% win rate, or probably 53% non-mirror win rate, is extremely strong. The video didn't convey how strong the statistics are, but the strength is recognized as the stats are in line with other situations where the Pauper Format Panel did decide to take action. This means we are potentially looking at a ban for Cardoso in the near future. But is the deck even good? If you look at data from MTGO challenges, the deck doesn't even break the 50% win rate mark and is not spiking challenges. Combined with the fact that apparently the second most played deck is Glee, which Mono-Red pairs favorably into, this means the win rate should be somewhat inflated due to a lacking diversity in leagues. The overall matchup spread against the whole field should still be quite decent. MTGO data does facilitate this notion, where Mono-Red has quite a few bad matchups. So when the meta doesn't just consist of a good matchup, the red deck can't keep up the performance, which leads to the conclusion that we do not need to ban anything from Mono-Red, despite the league data promoting a ban. Even more surprising is the absence of a discussion of Mono Blue Terror. It's the third most played deck in challenges and performs the best of all commonly played decks at a 54% win rate against other decks. How are we having a discussion about what cards to ban if the supposedly good decks are non-existent? We are ignoring currently well-performing decks, basing our view on the format on outdated and/or skewed data, and not even reporting general metrics like time frame of the data or games reported. Step up your game, Pauper Format Panel,